Greetings, I am Nick Nitro and I am the Lord of the Crucible. Welcome back. Today we are going to be reviewing the Crimson Dawn Banshee. Now when I received this, of course I did an unboxing video, and generally I am very pleased with what I received, and I'm going to be going over a few of the same details, maybe in a little bit more depth. But when I did first receive it, I did have one particular issue that I'd really like to address. Now, I do kind of expect a little bit of an assembly line work whenever a saber like this is manufactured, especially when you run into the blade itself. And it looks like they used an automatic screw gun to secure the blade into the hilt. Well, it looks like the torque was set a little bit high. As you can see here, probably much better in the close-up portions that we'll have here in a moment. The torque was set so high that the set screws actually dug in and countersunk into the polycarbonate itself. As a matter of fact, if you reach inside the blade, you can feel the divots where the plastic is raised up. One of the set screws was in so deep and so tight, I could not remove it with the Allen key that came with the saber. So I had to go out and get a cheap screw removal tool, which removed the set screw without any damage whatsoever. However, I do believe that this batch of set screws was probably a bad batch. They seem to be of a softer material. Not only the original 3 screws that came with the saber hilt, but also the 4 spares that they sent were all stripped out on the socket end where the Allen key fits in within a week. So I went out to my local hardware store and got replacement set screws. A pack of 5 cost less than $2. It was a cheap fix. They fit wonderfully, and of course you can see that they're more of a black oxide color here, which gives it a little bit more of a contrast, and I kind of like it a little bit better. That being said, that is the worst issue that I ran into. Now, like most people, when I first took it out of the box, of course, I grabbed a hold of it and it has a good feel to it. Later on I was asking myself exactly what does a good feel mean? It just seems to be like a very vague and subjective comment. So I decided to go into a few more details. Let me go ahead and get all of this here. I went ahead and weighed it, and the weight, it's not as heavy as some lightsabers are. It's only about 10.3 ounces. But it still has a good bit of feedback to it, It's a good diameter. The overall length, as you measure from the furthest point on the emitter to the base of the pommel, is about 9 3/4 inches. Now the balance point is something that I was actually a little surprised by, and you can see the blade fits in very, very tightly. But the balance point of the saber is very far forward. When I measured it, see, it's right about there. From that point to the furthest point of the emitter right here turned out to be exactly 4 inches. And that's kind of far forward to me. It gives it a very tip-heavy feel, so it's always pulling down a little bit here. Anytime I want to spin it around or get a little flashy, I like to grip as close to the balance point as I can. And if I could find a way to bring that point closer to the hilt, I would be really, really pleased with that. Now I also wanted to include the minimum diameter that I found, just because it might be important to some people. Not everybody has the same size hand. So what I found was that the minimum diameter, which is right in these grooves here, right in these finger wells, is about 1.15 inches, which provides just enough positive feedback here. Now the largest diameter out of the entire saber turned out to be right about here, right where your power switch and recharge port assembly is. And that didn't turn out to be too much larger. All told, it's 1.3 inches in diameter. So between here and here, it's not a very drastic difference, but it is enough to affect where you grip and, where it feels most comfortable. Now that being said, it is still a very comfortable saber. I did discover something a little unusual. Because of how tight the blade was fitting, I decided to measure the blade well right here, the blade socket. And in this space, the interior diameter turned out to be something like 0.992 inches in diameter. Okay, that's about average for a 1-inch blade. But the blade itself, and I didn't feel comfortable measuring down here because this area was a little crushed from how tightly the screws were put in. So I measured a little further up, and this measures at about 1.01 inches in diameter. Now it's not a large difference, but by a few hundredths of an inch, the actual polycarbonate blade is larger than the socket that it fits into, so it is a very tight fit. And because of that, and because of some of the sharp edges that you see here, I know, right? It's okay though. But it has caused a little bit of shaving damage right around the base of the blade. So when we get to our testing phase in the next video, it's going to be very interesting to see how the base of the blade holds up to all of the shock and stress that we're going to put this through. But, that being said, it's still very comfortable. Because it's such a tight fit, I have no worries of the hilt falling off or the blade flying out, even before I tighten down the retention screws. So let's go ahead and wake this up and take it through some of its basic functions here. Now this has 3 audio level settings. You've got a loud sound, a softer sound, and a mute function. So those of you that are doing any sort of fight choreography or fan film work might find the mute function to be a little bit preferable. This way you can add in your sound effects later on without having to worry about microphone placement too much. But we'll go ahead and ignite it here. And as you can see, I've got this on one of the sound fonts where it has an unstable blade effect. And in order to change your blade color, because this does come with a complete RGB LED unit, and that just means you can change the color at any time you want to any color you'd like, you just hold the button down for 2 seconds, let it go, and then hold it down until it cycles through to the color that you would like. Now I'm quite certain the camera is not picking up exactly how bright these colors are. They are really vibrant, they look really good to me. I may actually be getting washed out here by the blade itself. But you've got quite a variation of colors, a lot of different shades. I'll just take this back to our red. And to lock in the color that you'd like, you just hit the button 1 time, and that locks it in. Now this is one of the basic sound fonts. You have a blaster deflect sound. Also a lightsaber lockup sound. And of course, something they do that is a little different from a lot of other lower-end soundboards is that this has a fade on and fade off to the blade. Now it's not a full scrolling effect like you're going to see with like a NeoPixel blade, but it does kind of give a little bit more of an effect than just snapping the blade on. Of course, you've got flash on flash built right in. Now in order to change the sound fonts, you hold the button in for 3 seconds.
You've never fought anyone like me. I am Revan.
And this is going to be one of their Darth Revan sound fonts. I'm not much of a fan on this one. This is what I call a vocal sound font. There's a lot of talking in it. Not much of a fan of that myself, but that's just my personal opinion. You know, everybody's different. So, here we go.
I want you to know we're enemies.
Now the good thing about their color tuning feature is that you can have any color with any sound font. You don't have to lock the color into the sound font. If you want a light side sound font and a red blade, you can do it. So it's kind of a neat feature. Kind of a long sound effect for a blaster deflect. This is one of their stable blade sound fonts. Another unstable blade. I think. Yep, this is the first sound font that we started at. So all told, about 6 sound fonts here. Now, I'd like to talk about a couple more features that we have on the hilt, just because for the price, it's actually kind of amazing what you get here. As you can see, you get an illuminated AV switch and a recharge port. But, if we go ahead and take this off here, not only do you see your soundboard and the lithium-ion battery, as well as your speaker assembly, but you see that you get a full chassis here, which actually should help this survive the testing phase a little bit better, because this should absorb a lot of the shock and protect the soundboard from some of the things we're going to end up doing to it. So I'm really pleased to get to see that in a Saber, in a mystery box Saber at that was only $80. So Crimson Dawn really has a lot going for them right now. And that brings me to the pommel. Now a lot of places, and a lot of people like using double-bladed lightsabers, and usually if you're going to do that, well, of course you have to buy 2 sabers. Crimson Dawn's no different in that regard, but you usually have to buy an additional coupler. And not so, at least with the Banshee. This comes with a built-in coupler for the pommel. Now this is a very lightweight metal here, and that might be part of the reason why the balance point is so far forward on the blade, but it's actually threaded on both sides. So if you had 2 Banshees, all you have to do is remove the pommel off of one and then screw that one into the existing pommel on the other one, and there you go. You have your own double-bladed lightsaber that's ready to go. Now with all of that said, I do feel that this is a really good value for the money. At this point, I would go ahead and recommend this for anyone doing any sort of cosplay or any kind of decorative work. I can't recommend it for dueling yet because, well, we really haven't put it through the grinder. That's going to be on the next video. Hopefully you like all the information that I gave you this time around. And if you do, go ahead and click on the like button. Maybe subscribe. It'd really help us out. And go ahead and check out the Patreon page. All of these measurements that I took earlier, they're going to be compiled into a spreadsheet that's going to be available to everyone who signs up on the Patreon page, regardless of the tier that you're in. And you'll be able to access that at any point in time. And as we move on, as we review other sabers, as we add them to the list, and as we test them and whether or not they pass or fail, all of that's going to be added to the spreadsheet as well. So, check us out, and until next time, may the Force be with you.